Ireland versus Wales, which finished 24-14. Ireland getting the try bonus point as well. That's 2 wins on the trot. A good start for Ireland overall. In that first half, I mean, you weren't awake, but I'll bring you through it. Ireland really managed to get the ball wide a lot, which they stopped doing in that second half. They played pretty narrow in the second half, but in the first half really targeted Tompkinson, the new 13 for Wales. Got it wide to him. Tompkinson, I think the first half made like 7 tackles, missed 4. You could really see that was where they were attacking. And I'm surprised Ireland went away from that, just because they did play pretty narrow in that second half.
Well, in the second half, let's be fair, Wales for the first 25 minutes really controlled the ball and really controlled field position, right? So it's difficult to know whether they moved away from it or whether or not it was in response to the pressure that they were under, right? Because the Wales really had them under the cosh and had 2 long stints inside the 22. And all could have been different if they'd scored there, if Parks' try had been awarded, if they'd been able to convert that pressure. Let's say they if they scored a try and converted, it would have been 19-14. And then you really are game on.
Yeah. And that's one of the things I put in at half-time was that, my tweet was that Ireland would have been relieved to have got that second try just before half-time when Furlong bashed over. They'd had all the possession, they had all the territory, they had the opportunities. They weren't getting points. Wales, their first 10 minutes were absolutely error strewn, kicked out in the full. The only thing they had that was going for them was that their scrum was rock solid.
Yeah.
But because Ireland weren't putting the points on the board, it slowly allowed Wales to get into the game, settle themselves down, and they made 60 tackles in that first quarter of the game, which is just crazy,
ridiculous.
Number of tackles. It evened out, as you say, because Wales had such a good period in that second half. So I mean, we ended up with 167 for Wales and 128 for Ireland. So it evened itself up quite a lot. But say 60 of those tackles, nearly more than a third of the tackles in the first quarter of the game. One thing that happened tonight, which I thought that we see differently in the Southern Hemisphere sometimes, is this was a real battle at the breakdown. This wasn't a matter of guys get everyone on your feet, get in the line. That breakdown was especially
contested. And it's quite interesting because we've watched some Super Rugby games this weekend as well. There seems to be a real, and we know that people attack at the breakdown, but we saw lots and lots of penalties this weekend, both in Super Rugby and in this game as well. Lots and lots of penalties for holding, right? Which, I haven't quite worked out whether or not people are not committing enough cleaners to the point of contact there, or because we haven't seen a lot of turnovers. We've seen a lot of penalties, right?
Well, we've had a lot of turns conceded, but that's some knock-ons and stuff. But yes, we've had a lot of penalties. What we're not seeing called very often, we did see it called early in this game just once.
Releasing the ball.
No, releasing the tackler releasing.
That's right.
Tackler showing a clear release to the player. I think there's quite a lot of times where the tackler, there are two times when you get these turnover penalties. One is when the tackler chops the guy down and someone else comes in quick.
Yeah.
And because the ball carrier can't maintain his feet to allow support to come. And the other one is when the tackler puts the person down to stay on his own feet himself and then grabs the ball. And you're supposed to show clear release. And that's last year you saw players throw their arms away, bring their hands back in. You're not seeing that this year.
Yes.
Brett, so they don't seem to be calling that release quite as much. Rolling away, yes, we're getting that call. But so interesting that changed. So Lama, a couple of Irish players had really good games. Conway had a good game, especially in the first half with some kicking. Henshaw did, attacking that Tompkinson channel, and Lama's feet, and you mentioned him a couple of times in the second half, showing his feet. In the first half, got the ball, stepped Tompkins, 3 other guys tried to tackle him, and he scored. Ireland didn't manage to make space, but they used individual players ability to get over that line and get that score. Evening to folks in or morning, depending on where you are in the world, to those in the live chat. Why do you think Ireland went quiet in that second half? Let us know in the live chat. But yeah, Lama had a good game, showing his feet and showing that having replaced a long-time stalwart in Rob Kearney.
No, I think there's a lot of potential there. I like the way that he avoids contact. Right, so I mean, I've of course only watched the second half here, and having watched 2 games on the trot, Friday, 2 games on the trot last night, so it's Friday, Saturday, New Zealand time. What was quite clear is that a lot of the ball taken up, the difference is a lot of ball was taken up in this game straight into contact rather running into space. And what's nice to see about Lama is how he avoids contact. It's not just running straight at the tackler. There's a shift of balance, which is, makes a huge difference.
Yeah, it does. And with other players that can do that, I mean, Halfpenny got the ball a couple of times. That second half managed to do it as well, but we didn't see him at all in the first half. A player who does take it into contact though is Bundyaki, and he was used. He was used to bash it up quite a bit, wasn't he?
Yeah, and he had quite an impact on the game. I was thinking even in the second half there was a under advantage. Ireland put in a very deft chip over the defensive line and fielded it, and they were behind the defense, and he made a tremendous defensive play on the ball, the jackal over the ball. So they had to, he would have won a penalty there, so they had to go back to the original penalty for Ireland. But I mean, if he had not made that kind of play over the ball there, they were odds on, I think, to score a try, Wales. So I think he has a tremendous impact on both sides of the ball, defense and attack, right? So he holds the defense because he's so good in the contact when he carries the ball up. Is that he holds the defense from drifting. So yeah, he's been a good acquisition for them to increase the physicality out wide.
It absolutely is. It's been let's talk about a few of the Irish players. CJ Standard was also good over the ball. You mentioned if you're number 8 Jackling, you're in a good place. He pushed it one too far, but by the end of the game it was 1. He got the yellow card with just 2 minutes left.
Yes.
But hey, if you're leaving the yellow card till that late, and you're in the box seat,
and you're already 14 points or however many that they were up. But I think it's 17 points up when that happened. But the thing about, as you mentioned, is that if you have a third player, when I say a third player, so besides your 2 flankers, if you have a third player in your pack that is very good over the ball when it comes to turnovers, you really have a huge advantage, right? So he was filling in that sort of impact of the breakdown role but not one of the flankers that you saw Vermeulen have in the World Cup for the Springboks. You've seen various players, various hookers that are really good at it over the ball, and you just add a whole nother dimension that it's not just your flankers, right? So if your flanker makes a tackle in ruck 1 and he's not able to attend ruck 2 and flanker makes a tackle at ruck 2, you should always have, depending on where the ball is and how they're playing and spacing the forwards, you always have a third player that's strong over the ball. And even if you don't win turnovers, it does mean that you can slow the ball down, which helps your defense. So you get a huge advantage.
For those of you wondering why Dan Cole's got so many caps for England, that's why. Yes, maybe not that good at some of the traditional propping duties, but he gets over the ball, and that's why someone like Dan Cole.
Cian Healy's also good over the ball. He's not as good as he used to be. Maybe I think age might be catching up with him, but I still rate him as a really good player. But there's an example of another player good over the ball.
Yeah. Let's talk about some of the Welsh players who played really well. Dan Biggar impressed me tonight he did it a couple of times. He did it first off with Owen Jones for the try, and when I saw him do it with with Hadley Parks as well, where he gave the ball to the player, Owen Jones, got through, his arm free, and Dan Biggar's there ready for the offload. Gets the offload and then passed to Williams, who scored. He did it again with Hadley Parks, where again, gave Hadley Parks was straight there. Hadley Parks gave it straight back to him as soon as he was tackled. And you can see that's a set sort of play within loose play that they built up there, where he gives it to somebody, is there, and the second time it didn't work. First time, fantastic line break, got the try, which was really good. You're reading the comment there. I think it's a bit harsh there saying that after the first 50 minutes, Wales weren't interested in hitting rucks. I think the breakdown was fiercely contested throughout this game.
It really was, and there seems to be this tendency to not commit plays when you're carrying the ball, right? So that it's interesting because what I'm trying to piece together is whether or not there's been a shift on defense to contesting the ruck more rather than just tackle and fan out.
Yep.
Right. And so the attacking teams haven't adjusted yet that they need to put more players into the ruck. But you certainly started to see some of the games that we've seen this weekend start to shift when players realized that they needed to secure that ball better and pick and go and draw more defenders in, right? So
and that was a problem England had last week. You saw that actually they were committing 2 or 3 players to the ruck, and that meant the first ruck they were fine, the second ruck they were fine, the third ruck they've run out of players on attack. So yeah, it's a balancing act between having enough players on your feet to keep securing possession and actually making sure you secure the first one.
What do you think about this question here from Heinrich Janse van Rensburg? That were Wales poor or was Ireland just better?
Wales were definitely poor early on, and then both sides weren't clinical in actually picking up points. When Wales had their so when you're in a game where you only get something like 30-40% possession of territory, so in the first half, when you get your opportunities, because the game ebbs and flows, you're going to have your time in the opposition half at some point.
What's Murray Mixed's famous, the ebb and flow of psychic energy.
So when Wales had their moments or had their periods in the game, they didn't get points. Now there were 2 interesting ones in the second half there. First one was the Ireland try, the maul, where for me the maul was brought down, and then we saw the player move quite drastically to get the ball over the line. I thought that could have been called double movement. I was a bit.
You were allowed to hit the ground and place the ball. Right. So there's nothing in the replay that is clear and obvious that you could overrule it. Right. It's a conjecture. You can't see clearly. So if the referee from his position is saying, I see a try, which is clearly what the
referee
decision that he took, is the guy hit the ground short, reached over and placed. Should you do it this way?
Rolled and reached. Anyway. But I think if he'd said, I didn't see a grounding, say try yes or no, or on field decision no try, I think again he would have gone no try. So it was one of those ones where it was a very borderline.
I do think though that overall even if Hadley Parks' try was disallowed and there might be some argument that there was a finger on the ball, it did look like he lost the ball, right? And the other one wasn't. So even if these 2 tries were controversial and you could argue that decisions could have gone either way, and so that's a 14-point swing, whatever, you did get the sense that the better team won.
Yes.
Right. So it was a team that was better at taking their opportunities. It was a team that was better on defense. And it really did seem to me that Wales, when they were inside the Irish 22 in that second half, they just seemed to have a dearth of ideas.
Yep.
It was just smash the ball up, smash the ball up, smash the ball up, smash the ball up, try just, pick and go, drive. But there didn't seem to be some sort of creative spark, offload, creating of space. That just seemed to be, we're just going to smash. Right?
Whereas Ireland's last try was because they created space for Conway out on the right.
Correct.
And they created the overlap. So, Lama also nearly puts Stockdale away on the left-hand side as well, but the pass was just behind him.
Yeah.
And it could have, there was a possibility there as well. So, Ireland definitely were playing more rugby and making better things.
I would be asking questions if I was in the Welsh hierarchy. I would be asking questions of, do we just simply not have the players? In other words, do we need to look at selection, or there are no players available for Wales that can create space on the outside? Or do you need to have a look at your attack, both your attacking plan or your attack coach? Because they certainly had enough time and enough ball to set up something, right? And why they couldn't actually do that, even though at times they got behind, like they were inside the 22 and they penetrated slightly, and they still couldn't create space left or right. Questions need to be asked there. Why is there no ability to create at least the one-on-ones to get 5 meters over the line to score, or 3 meters over the line to score?
Yeah, and obviously the loss of Josh Adams didn't help in the first half. So who's been the try scoring machine for Wales. Wales are starting some new stuff. You've got Tompkins in that 12 channel, 13 channel. So they are learning. They are. Yeah, it is a period of transition with new coaches, blah blah blah. And Ireland, for example, one of their big questions is, should Andy Farrell be allowed to not wear a tie and open 2 buttons at the top of his shirt? That's just not a good look. Sorry, in there. But
hey man, I don't know. Yeah, one definitely. I think it's time to let the tie go, because actually, the tie was only invented because we didn't have buttons. So keep your shirt closed, right?
History lesson here for you folks.
Yeah, but so now we've got buttons, and the only reason it's hanging there is,
Yeah, but I think
just convention.
One more button by Farrell though, and he had a gold medallion showing. It really was a little bit too much. I do want to talk about this. I do want to talk about Hadley Park's try though, because we seem to have. The law book says you have to have contact.
Yes.
And yet we've now got referees and pundits talking about, did he have control? And the referee
it doesn't say anything about
control. Say anything about control.
No. But it did look, in that one shot, it did look like there was space before the ball hit the ground. It did look like there was space between his little finger, his pinky, and the ball. So the fact that the ball was moving forward like that, if there is space, I'm trying to find the camera here.
Yep.
If there's space, so if this hand is the ball, if there is space between his hand and the ball's moving forward, then he has lost it forward.
Yep.
Right. I don't know if the spirit of replay in scoring positions was such that you want to tone it down to the thousandth of the, a thousandth of a frame to see if there was exactly, I don't know if that's really the spirit of the rule. It's meant to rather,
but it's what we've got to anyway. Yeah.
But once you open that Pandora's box, this is where we're going to go.
Yeah, I didn't like the wording. This idea of you didn't have enough control. Sorry, you either say you lost the ball, or you had contact. So yeah, I guess it's more. I think
the giveaway. I think the giveaway is that he looked confident. Right? He felt like, unless he's a really good actor, there was a sense there. There was no sort of like iffy look about him. He looked like, yes, I've got that. I've scored. So as a rugby player, most times right? So,
but Hogg knew last week, and he still celebrated. So they're dodgy people, these rugby players. So congratulations to Ireland. Good start now. That's a win against Scotland, a win against Wales. As Johnny Sexton said in his interview there, off to Twickenham next weekend.
Oh, that's going to be a big one.
Sorry, the weekend after next, not next weekend.
It'll be a big one.
So that's a big one. We have got coming up Scotland versus England. So we're going to see that England side that lost.
Florence, Scotland.
Which country has a national anthem that's just purely about another person invading you? Anyway, never mind.
You're like a gun.
So Scotland, obviously off the back of that loss to Ireland, England off the back of that loss to France. It's going to be interesting to see how this one goes. So looking forward to that, and we'll be back live at the end of that game, and hopefully we can stop John from singing
and send him homewards.
Downstairs,
Once again.
Click subscribe, hit the bell,
Ding, 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 ding.
check out drivingmaul.com.
The witch is dead.